This video is about the engagement report in Google Analytics 4 and how it relates to your Etsy shop. And this is the one report that I would use because the other ones are okay, but they're missing information. It's not really stuff that I need to know or I can't get from Etsy. This is the report that you might actually be able to find information that Etsy's not telling you, and it could be helpful. So let's go into this. So what we're looking at is in the report section, and it's under the life cycle collection of reports. And in the previous video, I showed you how to find in the library these reports that show up here. We're looking at engagement. Now, the overview is just going to give you a basic overview of what's going on. Here we've got one person in the last 30 minutes. And remember, you can look at the real time if you want to watch that. Whether I want to look at it or not, I don't care. Not that big a deal. Now, remember that the other reports didn't have this number and this event. These numbers are all over the place. And I think if you sit down and actually try to figure out what lines up with what, it would line up to a certain extent. But again, take all this with a grain of salt. The numbers are not what I'm interested in for this report. The event count, remember, everything is an event. Everything that happens on your page is an event. So page view means that someone came to your page, all right? That's a default event that is there for every user because everybody sees a page when they come to your website or your shop. Session start means that someone started a session, which means they came to your website. A session is when they come to your site and it ends after they leave the page or they leave the tab and get out of your site completely, or 30 minutes of inactivity. So if somebody leaves and comes back in 29 minutes, they walk away from their computer, they come back and they keep going, that continues the session with no interruption. So it's one session. If they come back after 29 minutes and close the tab and then they open another tab, that's a second session. All right, so that's what session is. First visit means that someone is coming to your site for the first time. And not everyone gets that because if Google sees that the combination of browser and device has been used before to come to your site with that ID that they assign it, which is up here somewhere in the URL, then it just counts it as a session, not a first visit. Okay, so let's say I'm a first visitor. I'm a first visitor coming to your shop. I will get first visit, session start, and page view as default. That's going to show up 111. If I'm coming back to your shop and I've been there before, I'll only get session start and page view. User engagement. Now, this is what I was talking about. With engagement, it means that somebody has done those actions and it falls within that definition. And view search results, it means that they viewed a search result. I think that this must be in your shop. See, I'm not sure what this means as far as Etsy is concerned. Whether that's from the Etsy search, I don't think that's that. I think it's when they're searching within your shop because everything on Etsy is in your shop, the stats that they're recording, and I would have to look into that. But as far as Etsy goes, I think that they're using your shop search bar. And timing complete, I have no idea what that is. Maybe that they timed out. I've never seen that one before, to be honest, so I'm not sure what that means. If you want to know what these mean, you can always go to view events or you can click the little question mark up at the top and just type that in and it'll tell you what the definition of that is. All right, so as you scroll down, this tells you how many pages have been viewed. This is interesting. All right, so this will tell you the pages that were viewed the most. And this tells you how viewers or users kind of came back to your site over time. I'm really only interested in the keywords because that's what I'm interested in. So I would be interested in this. It's like, what are people looking at? That's good to know. And then if you want to see the whole report, you can click here and that will take you to the pages and screens report, or you can just go over here and click on it. So that's the overview. It kind of gives you shortcuts to go to the other reports. Now let's go to the events report. Events, like I said, everything that happens on your page is an event. And we talked about page view, session start, first visit, user engagement. These are people that clicked on more than one page. They spent more than 10 seconds, or they did a conversion event, which I'm not sure if I had that set up in here. View search results. I believe this is probably using my shop and it's all very repetitive. Okay, so if you want to see this more in depth, what you do is you click on this and it will bring up the event detail report. This will bring up the page view event detail. And then you can look to see a little bit more information about that, pages are viewed, blah, blah, blah. Each event can be clicked on for a little bit more information if you're interested in that. again, I'm not interested, but you might be. Let's go to the pages and screens. Okay, now pages and screens and landing page are essentially, it's not interchangeable, but you can put the same stuff in there and kind of get the same types of reports. It's very similar in how you can sort down here. This is going to tell you page views, the number of users, views per user, that kind of stuff. And you can customize this if you go over here and go to dimensions, and you can take stuff in and out. I don't really need to worry about that at this point. But if you don't need some of these, you can take those columns out and just get rid of them. What I'm interested in is this over here. Okay, so we've got page path and screen class. This tells you screen class and screen name are really for apps. It's an app thing. It doesn't tell you much. And this, I'm really just interested in page, like the page name, the page title. And so I'm just going to choose page title. That'll give you like the printed out page title, the title of the page, which is your listing title. And that will tell you what gets looked at the most, what gets looked at the least. And you can expand this if you want to see more rows, you can go up to 250. So that's information that can be useful because you might want to run a sale on things that are being looked at a lot, but they don't sell that much. So if you know that people are looking for keyword lists for sewing patterns, but nobody's buying it, then maybe you can go into the keywords there and see what they're searching for, because they might be searching for something that's not really what they're seeing. And the way that you do that, and this is where it gets fun, is you go to page and screen and put the landing page and query string in like we did for the last thing. Now, what this tends to do, depending on how, what Google Analytics is doing today, sometimes it wipes everything out. And sometimes you can see those other columns that'll show up, but it doesn't matter because I don't care about the columns. What I'm looking at is the query string. The query string comes after the title here, right? It's actually I think it's the whole thing after the URL. This is the query string. But this will tell you all the information that Etsy doesn't want to tell you about what keywords were searched, where it showed up in search. I'll look at the landing page report. We'll look at that. But let's say that I have this keyword list for sewing patterns. Let's say that nobody has bought it. So I'm like, okay, a few people have searched for that. So I'm going to put in sewing and just filter for that. And that'll bring up every time that was searched and what keyword it was searched for, if it was found in search. So this one was found, it looks like it's not going to give me a keyword list. So this might be just direct traffic. These look like they were found in search because, oh no, this one wasn't. Okay, so these were not found in search, all right, because this is the reference, REF is reference, like where was this clicked on? This will tell you where people actually clicked in your shop to come to this listing. The engagement report is about what people do in your shop, okay? Acquisition is how they got there. How did they get to your shop? Engagement is what did they do in your shop? So somebody was in my shop because they clicked on search recently viewed and they came to my shop. So they had looked at my listing before, they went to Etsy, and in that, probably on the homepage, it says recently viewed because you viewed this, or recently viewed, and I'm not sure where this shows up. I think it's the Etsy homepage. It could be other places, but recently viewed. Okay, so I know that my listings were shown to someone who was there before, and now they've come back and Etsy showed it to them. They clicked on it again and they came to my shop. This one is reference equals shop home active, which just means that was my shop. They were in my shop and they clicked on one of the listings from my homepage. Okay, this one after it means that that's the first page. So they were in the first page of my shop and they clicked on a listing on the first page. So there's a lot of information that you can get from this that Etsy won't tell you. And this is the only way that you can find out where people clicked on your listing and came to your shop. So, regardless of any other tools that say, oh, your listing showed up on page 3. Well, that's nice, but did anyone click on it? I don't know. And it's useless to know where your listing is showing up if no one's clicking on it. But if no one is clicking on your listings, you can go to Google Analytics and see the clicks that I am getting, where are they coming from? Where are they located? So let's go, this report is good for that. But the landing page report, it's very similar. And it's pretty much the same dimension that I am looking at is the landing page and query string. Okay. So here we have landing page. We're going to add the query string to it. And that is under page screen, landing page and query string. And again, I don't really care about this. You know, on the page report, I have the title, but I can see the title in the URL for the landing page, in the landing page and query string. So what I'm going to do is go over here and I'm going to customize this report to get rid of this first thing. Okay, so that's the template. I'm going to go to dimensions and I'm going to add landing page, and you can type it in here. Let's do landing page and query string will come up. And then I'm going to make this one the default, and I'm going to get rid of landing page because it's landing page is included in landing page and query string. Okay. I'm going to click apply, and then I'm going to save it. And the next time I come back to this report, it should be saved. Now, I think that just said that Etsy, that Google, yeah, for some reason, Google likes to add this report. Okay. Now I don't need business objectives, but this is Google's AI trying to be smart and telling you, oh, you must need this report. No, I do not. And look, it's also added this twice. So let's go over to the library and let's get rid of, let's get rid of that business objectives. Okay, it's there. Life cycle. I don't know why it put it in twice. So I thought it put life cycle in twice. Okay, anyway, so I hope that fixed that because I don't really need that in there twice. So let's go to the landing page report, which is now the landing page and query string report because I saved it. Okay, and you can just get rid of things. If Google throws something in there, it's because it's saying, this is what you're looking at. I'm like, no, it's not. I don't care about that. So you can get rid of it. But now, okay, now see, it is showing these columns. So that's, things change. Google is nuts. All right. But this is where the gold is. Okay. I'm going to expand this to, I think we had 200, there says 262. So I'm going to do 250 listings. This is where the information is that you can use. And I will put a list. I'm going to do an article about this, like how to read the URL strings in Google Analytics for Etsy shops, because it gives you a lot of information. All right, you know how sometimes where Etsy will not show you keywords that something was found for because they're trying to anonymize the search or whatever their reasoning is, you can usually come here and see what the keywords are. So if you go to the listing, and we would have to find something, let me see, most order, this looks like a keyword list. Okay, so if you go here, anything on here that says organic search at the end of the query string means that it was searched for in Etsy, and that's what brought them to your shop. Okay, they searched for it, they clicked on your listing, and that's what you're seeing in Google Analytics. Basically, Google Analytics is going to show you the last step that got someone to that listing. So you know that this came from organic search on Etsy because it says so right here. And Etsy makes this actually very easy to figure out. There's a lot of stuff down here that there's a lot of stuff in the query strings from Etsy that tells you exactly where the stuff is found. So if, for example, this is reference equals shop home active. Again, that's the home page of my shop, but it's not the home page because it's page 2. See, it says shop home active. So that's my home, it's my home shop, but it's active listings on page 2. Okay, so they went to page 2 of my shop, they clicked on there. This says reference equals search, 2 top narrowing intent modules top rated. My assumption for that is that they have narrowed this with a filter. They've done a search, but they've used filters to narrow down to the top rated or whatever filter Etsy has in place for that. Etsy does tend to kind of change these codes after a while, or when they roll out a new feature, they'll put a new feature and you'll start seeing that kind of thing showing up in your URLs on the landing page and search string, the query string report. But you can pretty much figure out where the stuff comes from. But if you see, like this says organic search here, okay, on this one, if you go back over here, it says search query. That tells you what they searched for on Etsy. So somebody went to Etsy and searched for the name of my shop, and it came up, the reference equals SR gallery. That's the search result gallery, first page, position 6. So that would be the second row of organic search listings in the second position because there are 4 listings per row. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's the second position on the second row. That's the first page, position 6. Now this can come in handy, and I will put a little code, I'm going to write an article about this. So I will put like a little code decoder. And like I said, these do tend to change. So they're not guaranteed to work all the time, but you can usually figure it out just because of the way that Etsy abbreviates things in a very obvious way. But let's say, and for example, there's someone in my program whose listing, she can't find them on page 1 anymore. She doesn't know where they're showing up on Etsy. She is getting traffic. So if you go into Google Analytics, you can search the landing page and query string report and have this be the, what you're looking at. You can go in and actually see where people were clicking on your listings. And it's interesting, in my main shop, I get a lot of traffic from the cart. And if it says reference equals cart, I'll see if I can find some different ones, because this looks like it's mostly in my shop, or let's see, shop home, active shop home. That's coming from my store, like my shop itself. This is another filter. Somebody's using the filter. Shop home. But you can find a lot of different, there's a lot of people that go to my shop and then click around in there. That's basically it. Okay, here's a good one. Reference equals homepage, that's HP, people also bought. That means that on the homepage of Etsy, they're showing somebody suggested for you. Like these are things that are suggested for you, or people also bought. However they're phrasing it these days, that's how they're putting it in here. So this is coming from the Etsy homepage, and my listing has been featured there somewhere, and somebody clicked on it and they came to my shop. Now you can't tell if they bought, you can't tell if they purchased anything, but you can tell that they came from your shop, and you can look up the search query and this. And so that means that someone went to organic search on Etsy. They typed in Etsy keywords tool. They typed this into the search bar, and then it took them to the search results gallery in the first page, position 2, which would be the second listing on the top row of organic search results. They clicked on that and they came to my shop. And like I said, this basically is telling you what's the last step that someone took to get to that listing, because that's what Google Analytics records, is the last link. So whatever somebody clicked, that's going to be recorded. But because of the way that Etsy does this, it's very easy to figure out. And I just caught sight of this. Reference equals HPOPFY. This is probably reference equals homepage. OPFY could be, let me go to Etsy and we'll see what it says. All right, I checked, and the OPFY stands for Our Picks for You. And it's actually coming from this because you viewed. And the way that you can check that is to click on this and then look at the URL that comes up and see if OPFY is in it. And in this case, it was. So it's pretty easy to figure this stuff out. You just have to go to Etsy and type everything in. Etsy does add things. It does take things out. And for example, let's say that they had a code for treasuries, right? They don't have treasuries anymore, so they won't be using that code. They now have codes for things like editor's picks. That will say editor's picks. So it's not that difficult to figure this stuff out. And, it does take a little bit of time to go through all of it. But you can go in here and actually see, where did people click on my listing on Etsy to get to my shop? Okay, here's one that says HP, which is homepage. So that's the Etsy homepage. People also bought. So this could be things like, because similar things that other people bought and we're suggesting them to you, you would have to go to Etsy and click around. I haven't seen that one before, so that could be a new code, but it's not that hard to figure out. So this is what I'm saying. This is what to me is interesting, because you can actually go in and see, where did people click on my listing on Etsy and how did they find my shop? That to me is more valuable, because if what you're seeing is that every single person, like this whole section is from being in my shop. So people were in my shop and they were clicking on listings in my shop. But if you're seeing a lot of stuff where there's people coming from other places on Etsy, there's a lot of organic search. There's a lot of where's the one that had the, well, like the other people's, Our Picks for You, your favorites, your treasuries. I mean, there's a lot of places where you can be found that is not search related. And one of these things is to be aware of that when you see that in your own stats, but it's also if all you're seeing is your shop. And I really don't promote this shop on Etsy. Like I don't go on Etsy and do, Etsy updates. I don't do shop updates. I don't do Etsy Explore updates and that kind of thing. So it makes sense to me that most people would be finding this shop through organic search and then being in the shop and clicking around. But maybe this tells me that I might need to do a little bit more promotion in other parts of Etsy to get it spread around the Etsy ecosystem, because there is an ecosystem. If you are in the eShop Success program, there's a whole section about that, but it's just the kind of thing that you should be aware of. Now, this is interesting. The thank you page, okay, CL, I've seen people talking about this recently, that Etsy has been sending out letters, like the confirmation letter CL, that when an order goes out and they send the thing that says your order has shipped, they send another thing that says you might also like these things. Okay, so this apparently was sent to somebody who purchased something else as a link in a confirmation letter, and they clicked on it and came to my shop. I don't think that that's, Etsy kind of oversteps sometimes with where they put links, but I think that sending out links in a confirmation letter is fine, because the purchase is done. They've bought from you. It's just confirming the purchase. And this is being sent out and saying, you might also like these things. So look, this brought me some traffic. Okay. This is the kind of stuff that you can look at. You can decide, where you should be spending your time on Etsy or not. Here's reference user profile. Okay. So this is somebody's favorites. This came from someone's page profile. They have favorited my listing. Someone else clicked on it. So don't tell me that favoriting things is useless. Okay, you have to do it the right way. Don't do the games where you're like, I'll do 5 of yours and you do 5 of mine. No, but if somebody actually sees something in someone's favorites, they can click on it and come to your shop. So I hope this just drives that point home. And honestly, when I come to Google Analytics for my Etsy shops, this is the only report that I care about, because I know that the numbers on the other ones are a little wonky. But I think that the pages and screens and the landing page reports are showing what people are doing while they're in your shop, while they're interacting with your listings. And this tells me more information than Etsy does a lot of the time, just based on the limited stuff that they tell you about your traffic on Etsy. So I hope that that was helpful. Just be aware that there's a lot of stuff in Google Analytics that does not really apply to Etsy, and you don't need to worry about it. If you do want to look at all the other stuff, if you want to look at the acquisition report, just remember that that's about new users. It's not all users, but really the engagement report, that's where the action is. All right. So give this video a thumbs up. If you have questions, leave them, and I will talk to you later.